We all go a little mad sometimes. Haven't you?
They could be anybody's. Nobody trusts anybody now. We're all very tired.
Put the bat down, Wendy.
Stop it!
Wendy, give me the bat.
Please! Billy!
Give me the bat.
Stop it!
Give me the bat.
Please!
Stop swinging the bat.
Wait, stop!
Give me the bat.
Billy!
Wendy!
Stop!
Give me the bat.
Stop!
Give me the bat.
God damn!
Welcome, everybody, to episode number 3 of the M.V.M Horror Podcast, where everything is made up and the points don't matter. What's that from?
Football.
No! It's Whose Line Is It Anyway?
Oh, is that like that show?
Yeah, you never saw it?
No, never actually.
Oh my god. Where
I don't
were
think-
you in, like, the early 2000s? Were you, like...
I was watching not that show. I wasn't a big sitcom person,
It's
and
not a
if I
sitcom.
was, oh okay.
It's an
Well,
improv
then.
show.
Oh okay then.
It's, like, the funniest show ever. It's amazing.
All right, shows you how much I know.
I'm disappointed.
I'm sorry.
I thought you were gonna be like, oh, yeah, I get it.
Yeah, we already kind of dropped the ball here, I see.
Well,
But
you did.
okay, whatever, dude. It's not my fault. You can't just come at me with this stuff and expect me to just know.
Well, I just figured you're knowledgeable. But
Oh well, thank
my
you.
mistake. My mistake. Anyways, my name is Austin Schroyer, and I am joined, of course, by my co-host, the person who does not watch good TV shows, Carly. So, what's been going on?
Well, not too much has
Not
been going
watching good
on.
TV shows, I know that.
Well, honestly, I really don't watch any TV now because
I don't
I haven't
either.
used my cable. Literally, I have cable and I have not even turned it on since living here. So like 3 years because all I watch is Netflix and movies.
Wow.
Yeah, but anyway, not a whole lot has been going on. Trying to think. I saw Greta last week. That was a pretty solid movie, probably the best one in theaters to date for this year. So highly recommend that one to people. I mean, I saw some people had some issues with it, and I did too. Just very small ones though, nothing really that made me angry or anything. So definitely recommend that. Other than that, I really haven't been doing much as far as movie watching or going to movies or anything like that goes. I mean, I have been watching movies, but just kind of random stuff. But what about you, Austin?
I've watched a couple more movies from this year. I watched Happy Death Day to You, which we're not going to talk about because we already talked about too fucking much already.
You're bringing it up again.
Well, no, we're just going to ignore it and move on.
All right.
But yeah, I checked out The Prodigy, which I know some people were saying it's kind of a gem. I thought it was alright. I just thought it was pretty generic for the most part. It had some creepy moments in it, but other than that, nothing that I haven't seen. Just kind of made me want to watch Orphan, honestly. I was like, oh, I want to watch a better evil kid movie. It was alright, though. I did watch one that's been gotten talked about a good bit on the group pages and stuff. It's called Lords of Chaos. It's just about this metal band. It's kind of like one of those movies. It's like a drama / horror movie. I think it's listed as a drama. No, it's just drama horror, I think so, or something like that, or drama horror comedy or something like that. But yeah, it's kind of one of those ones that kind of blends the lines. But I would definitely count it as a horror film overall. But yeah, I mean, some people were saying it was like really, really awesome. Like, thought it was amazing. Um, it was really well done for the most part. The film itself, though, I think is kind of a little rough around the edges. There's some like pretty. The acting is solid for the most part. I think sometimes it's a little iffy in the movie. I've heard some people agree with that as well, but yeah, it's pretty well done. Have some really really effective scenes. There's just some like editing and stuff that's and camera work a little rough around the edges, but overall pretty solid movie. I'm really not in like I really can't like fully get into the movie though because I'm really not into like the whole like these people are like really into like heavy metal and stuff like that. Like just really can't relate to that kind of stuff. And they're kind of those kind of people that are like, yeah, hell Satan. Like I'm just like, yeah, I honestly find that stuff like really over the top and cringeworthy.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It was a good movie though. Like I definitely recommend checking it out, but I didn't think it was crazy or anything.
Yeah, I really haven't. I don't even think I saw anything about that one. I must not be paying much attention. But yeah, I honestly haven't watched any 2019 films other than the theatrical releases. I watched horror noir on Shudder, and I watched like the Ted Bundy tapes on Netflix. But those obviously don't really count as films or more like documentaries. And but yeah, other than that, just been seeing things at the movies. Hopefully Netflix and Shudder will start to pick up and put more stuff out that I'm interested in. But the year's young, so I'll probably do it as I always do and wait till the last minute anyway to watch everything. But
yeah, I know Netflix does have a movie out. I don't know. I heard like people in the groups like talking about it, so like I'm assuming. I know it's like kind of a thriller type movie, so I'm assuming it's like it would count as horror, but I think it's Velvet Buzzsaw. I know it has like Jake Gyllenhaal in it.
yeah, some people are calling that movie trash, and then I
Yeah.
feel like others are saying it was alright. So
Yeah, I know.
I haven't
heard-
been in a hurry.
Yeah, me too. I haven't heard too many good things about it, so I don't know. It's kind of. It looks like a really weird movie, but it seems like something I may be into. But I don't know. Not hearing too many good things about it. Like I don't know. Not too excited to check that out. But I did watch another one too. But it was just like kind of a. It was an okay movie. It was kind of forgettable. It was like called The Isle or something. It was like these people get. It's like a period piece type movie. These people get like. I knew you were gonna sigh.
Gasp.
But yeah, they kind of like get like shipwrecked and they like wreck on this island. The islanders are really weird and I don't know. It's kind of one of those movies, but it was alright. It was okay. Didn't think it was anybody needs to check it out, but yeah. So we are actually doing something, to my knowledge, for this episode that is pretty freaking original. I can't believe it.
Whoa.
I'm actually doing something that's like completely, I won't say original, but I've, to my knowledge, I haven't seen anybody do something like this for a podcast. And you are the one who actually brought this idea up to me, so you can go ahead and have the honors of telling everybody what we are doing.
Whoa, thanks. Yeah, to be honest, guys, I mean, JP kind of planted the idea in my head a little bit here, so I can't take full credits, but basically what we are doing is we are going to be comparing, instead of two movies for this episode, we're going to be doing two different years, specifically a decade apart. We're going to do 2002 versus 2012, and pretty much we're just going to go through the movies and kind of discuss what we know about them and what we like and don't like. And then I have a few just minor actual comparisons and, differences to bring up towards the end. But So we're just gonna do that, and then we're probably just gonna go by how many movies or which year we feel kind of had the stronger movies, and that's how we'll decide which year wins. And, you know, if this all works out, we'll probably go ahead and do this for other years as well. I just think it's a pretty nifty idea, and like Austin said, I've never really heard anyone actually compare years. Of course, like 22 Shots, they do their thing where they do top 10s from specific years, but and then everyone does their top 10s for the current years and stuff like that, but no one actually compares years really as a whole unless it's just general conversation. I mean, once again, there might be podcasts out there who have done something like this. I'm not saying that we're like the most amazing people in the world, but based on the ones... I am not. I'm a little more humble over here, and I feel that, you know, based on the podcasts that I've listened to, I've never really heard this specific idea be discussed. So I thought it would be cool. Hopefully we can have some fun with it, and yeah.
Yeah, you're so humble.
I am.
Yeah.
And I put everyone before me. I'm a selfless person.
Me to share everybody the messages you send me sometimes. You're like, oh, I'm so perfect.
Let's, you could show them the message. Well, I guess you kind of just admitted that you are a dick, so that wouldn't even matter. But,
yeah, I
okay.
don't know what you're talking about anyway, so.
Oh my god.
Anyways, though, yeah, I thought this was a really, really cool idea. We originally had something else planned, which I edited out the part of the last episode where we talked about it, so you'll never know what it is.
Yeah.
But I think this fits in more with the theme of our show, and plus I just think it'd be really interesting and cool to do. Yeah, now, while with, like, picking, like, the years that's, like, for, like, picking the years, you kind of either have to do it, you know, one of two ways, because you can't just kind of, like, pick two, you know, random years against each other, like, you know, like, 95 and 85. Because obviously, like, you know, 85 is obviously a much stronger year, and, you know, wouldn't be much, you know, point in doing something like that. So you kind of have to, you know, look and see, like, if they, you know, either have, like, similar quality to them, like, say if they're, like, two solid years or two, you know, not so solid years, and then, you know, do it like that. So, you know, it's, like, with, like, the comparisons and stuff like that, like, there's, like, not gonna be, like, a crap ton of, like, comparisons we can do, with them, because, like, finding years that have, like, a lot of similar movies in it and have like, the same quality would be, like, really, really hard to do. I'm sure we could do that, but, like, this is mostly going to be, like, just comparing, like, the quality, you know, of the years against each other. But, like Carly said, she does have some, like, some things listed down that these years do have in common, so, yeah, now for, the way we're doing this, we are kinda, like, deciding, like, what year the movie is from. We kind of, are just going by what IMDb has listed. So there are a few movies that came out in theaters in these certain years, but they were released sometime, somewhere the year before, or whatever, so they won't be counting. But yeah, it's just kind of the easiest way to go about it. But yeah, like some of the movies, like Frailty, came out in theaters 2002. That is, but you know, the date is 2001. Same with Jason X and Cabin in the Woods as well for 2012. So those movies won't be appearing on here. So also, like, obviously, like, me and Carly, we haven't seen, like, every single movie from these years, so we're only going to really talk about the ones that we've seen. So, or at least one of us has seen. So, yeah. So if a movie doesn't show up, either it doesn't count for the year or we haven't seen it. So, but yeah, I feel like we've seen. I think we both said we both seen like at least a decent amount for, each of these years. So I think we'll be okay.
Yeah, like I told you before, I kind of just Googled each of the years on my phone, and then like the list of the, main ones kind of pop up, and I went through during my lunch break at work and was writing down all the ones that I had seen, and I was actually surprised because I was afraid going into this that I was going to be clueless on the years and be like, well, this was kind of dumb, but yeah, I think I didn't really number these, but I saw somewhere around like 16, I think, from 2002, and then I saw like 19 from 2012. So I was kind of shocked by not only the amount I've seen, which maybe to some people it's not a lot, I don't really know for sure, but not only that, but just the amounts that I've seen from both of the years, because it's almost the same exact amount pretty much.
Yeah, I'm pulling on my list right now because I got it on Letterboxd. So I have seen, I believe, 18 from 2002 and 20 from 2012. So, yeah, so not too bad. I've probably seen more in 2012.
Yeah.
I would say that probably aren't listed, but anyways, but kind of before we get started with all this, I do want to kind of talk about a little bit about like kind of what the direction like horror was going at the time, like these years, came out and everything. So 2002, we really we're kind of past the whole floating heads, Scream era type of movies for the most part, I think.
Mm-hmm.
We're kind of past that, and it's almost kind of like right before like the big like wave of like remakes that were coming out. We do have some come out from this year, but like I feel like it really started out like the following year once TCM came out, and that kind of kicked off like a whole bunch of different remakes from the mid 2000s, and that's what kind of ruled that era. But yeah, this there seems to be like a lot of not a lot, but it seems like of like the notable movies. There seems to be like a lot of like or quite a few notable like Asian horror movies.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess that's is a thing like in the early 2000s. Yeah, we quite haven't hit that like remake, coming out with a ton of remake stage yet. So it's kind of a weird kind of almost kind of like limbo that this year's in. There's really no like certain direction like it's going. Like you could like if you said like 1981, like obviously like this is a bunch of slashers and whatnot, and even for like 2012 there's stuff in there. But yeah, it's kind of interesting. I'd say at this point in 2002, obviously I was only 4 years old at the time, and you'd only been 5, but I'd say around this time I don't know if I was even watching horror movies yet, but for like the longest time I'd only watched like stuff from like the 90s and stuff, so I really hadn't seen a whole lot of these films until later on, I'd say.
Yeah, like it's weird because I look at these movies and some of them I remember seeing when I was a really little kid, and I kind of think, I wonder if I saw these quite literally when they first came out or if it was a few years later, because I'm really bad with memory of my childhood. I mean, I have a lot of memories, but I don't remember the timeline in which things happened. Like something could have happened when I was 5, but in my head it's when I was 9. So like all those years kind of run together for me, but it is definitely a weird year as well. I was kind of trying to pinpoint like a sort of subtitle for this year, or the year of whatever you want to call it, category I guess you could say, to put all these movies in, and there really isn't, because you have a different variety. You have like the ghost films, like you said, the Japanese horror was kind of kicking off, and then you have some zombie infected movies and a lot of technology-based films, some just all kinds of stuff going on here. It's really hard to just say, oh, this is the year of the floating heads, or this is the year of the slasher, or anything like that. So definitely very interesting. It felt like a year of change, as you said. It's not the same 90s movies rip-offs, and just seemed like it was definitely starting to kick off something new there. So definitely interesting.
Yeah, I guess you could say it's like the year of like underwhelming / shitty sequels. there's quite a few of those to talk about. We'll get to those later. But yeah, that's about it. Now 2012. Now this year I would actually say I have quite a bit of, I guess I would say, nostalgia for this year, because honestly, like, this is probably the year I started really getting into horror. Like, I went to see, like, quite a few of these movies in theaters, and I remember watching all these movies on Netflix and stuff like that. And, yeah, so I have quite a bit of, like, fond memories with some of these films. Yeah, 2012, though, we're kind of like right now where we are in 2019. I'd say we're kind of like in like the art house type era of films, with movies like, Hereditary and The Witch and It Comes at Night and stuff. A lot of those types of movies, like those artsy types of movies coming out. At this stage, I'd say we're still kind of in that stage where like a lot of like found footage movies were coming out. Still, there's quite there's a few really notable ones that came out, and like this is the time like when like I'd be like on Netflix just like, and there'd be like found footage movies like everywhere, and I would just always watch them no matter how shitty they would be and how shitty I thought they'd be. But yeah, I was this time I was really really into like those found footage types of movies, and I still am to a point. I still am a pretty big fan of the subgenre, but I think it gets a bad rap. But yeah, so what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, 2012. I mean, this is when I would have been either a freshman or sophomore in high school, and honestly, around that time in my life, I wasn't into horror as much as I am now, or as much as I was when I was a kid up through middle school. I kind of had other stuff going on, other interests going on when I started high school, and horror was kind of on the back burner. But I definitely remember seeing things like The Woman in Black when that first came out, and House at the End of the Street. And honestly, looking at this list, that's kind of about it. Like, I didn't really go see many movies in the theaters back then. I remember my one friend kept bothering me to see Sinister, and we never did that. Chernobyl Diaries, I saw like little bits probably when I was a junior in high school. I saw it at a friend's house, and at the time I thought it was a movie from like the late 2000s, and I even say that in a YouTube video. JP always makes fun of me, and because I'm like, oh, this movie came out in like 2006, I think, but obviously that's quite wrong. I think it's because Jesse McCartney's in it, but anyway, I think I might have seen Paranormal Activity 4 in theaters as well, because I went through a thing where me and my friends enjoyed going to watch all those movies when they would hit the theaters, so that's kind of nostalgic for me. But yeah, other than that, I really wasn't, I don't have a lot of like nostalgia for these movies. I've seen quite a bit of them, obviously the popular ones at this point, but most of them are from recent time. As far as like themes go for this year, I almost feel like you said it's kind of, you got some found footage, you have, looks like there's a lot of sort of ghostly and possession movies, and then some violent films, and some also, like you said, artsy films. So definitely more different themes going on this year as compared to 2002, I would say.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. So, yeah, I guess without further ado, let us get into this. So, of course, starting with 2002. Now, how I thought we'd do this is, we both kind of name off, a couple of movies from this year that both the years that we really like. Of course, we'll do it 1 year at a time. But we'll both go through a few movies that we really like, and then I'll list off some other kind of notable movies that came out from that year, and then Carly will follow up and name any that I missed, and then we'll do it for the next year after that. So yeah, I have to say, like overall for me, like, of course, like, I think this is a really solid year overall, especially kind of like the top films of the year, because like this film has a couple of like my favorite movies from the whole 2000s, I'd say. But one that like probably my favorite from this year is probably Cabin Fever. Yeah, I know. I was gonna say that's probably gonna upset some people, but I feel like this movie is kind of like the Eli Roth movie that most people like. I feel.
Yeah. Cabin Fever, it's a good one. It's one that I did not actually see when I was young. It was one that I saw more in recent time, but it's one that I have gone back to several times since first watching it. I think it's one of those older films that really doesn't age. Like, it feels like it could have come out last year or something like that. No, I'm not accidentally confusing it with the remake, but it's one of those timeless ones. Some of these films from 2002, you watch them and I almost get kind of depressed when I watch these early 2000s movies because they feel so dated sometimes, and I think, wow, I was alive during this, like I was a little kid, and it kind of makes me feel old. But with Cabin Fever, I don't really get that feeling for some reason, so definitely a great movie from the time.
Yes, awesome. I don't even know if you've even seen this movie, because I don't know if I've never heard you talk about this movie, but Dog Soldiers.
I have not.
Oh man, it is the way to do action with horror. I'm not a fan of action whatsoever, and really not a fan of action horror either, but this just does it perfectly. There's a lot of suspense, just great characters, great effects, just a really, really fun werewolf film. It's always been one of my favorite werewolf films. Actually, I have the Scream Factory Blu-ray. This is one of those films that is just never going to look very good on Blu-ray, just because of the way it was shot. It just looks really grainy, and there's really nothing you can do about it. But yeah, really, really cool movie. I know this is a lot of other people's favorites as well. After that, I guess you'd have to say probably May after that for me. I've only seen this movie. I've only seen it once. But yeah, it's just a really, really uncomfortable movie to watch, which I won't say much on it because I know you'll probably talk about that a little bit more
No,
later.
I hate it.
Okay, well. Yeah, those three are definitely like the top three for me. The Ring's also there. It's like that's probably the one I saw, that and like 28 Days Later and like probably like Signs. I probably saw around this time, but I don't have a whole lot of nostalgia for them. I do think they're pretty good films. I just don't like overly love any of them. I haven't even seen the original Ring movie. Like, The Ring's like the only.
Yeah, I honestly, I think I've only well, that's not true. I've seen Ringu 2, the Japanese movie. Funny thing is, my mom, I think I saw it like at the video store when I was little, and I was like, oh, this is cool. This is like the original Ring, and we got it and brought it home, and then I started watching it, and like we're like, what the hell? This isn't like in English. Like, my mom's not very versed in foreign films or anything like that. Like, it's just not something that she would sit down and watch. So it was subtitled, and I didn't understand it either when I was a kid. I'm like, well, I can't understand anything they're saying. This is stupid. So I pretty much watched that movie and just literally was just looking at the screen, not knowing anything that was going on because I didn't feel like reading everything. So kind of saw that movie. I've also seen Sadako, which is one that recently came out, as well as Sadako versus Kayako. So, and I've seen The Ring 2, and Rings, but
Yeah, I've seen Ring 2.
yeah.
I just don't want to talk about it, to be honest, so.
I thought it was so scary when it first came out. It was a sad thing. I was like, wow, you see Samora so much. This is so spooky. And then, oh man, it's pretty bad though.
Oh yeah. But speaking of a movie from the 2000s, early 2000s that is dated, Ju-on the Grudge. I've only seen this movie once too. And yeah, it's not the best made movie, for sure. It's super, super low budget. Me and my brother actually saw like an even lower budget like rip off of this movie. It was called like Ju-Ray or something. It was so like it was just a complete shameless rip off. It was like it was okay though. I mean it was what it is. But yeah, I find Ju-on to be like really, really fucking creepy. It doesn't have really much replay value for me, really because of that, and because it's a slower paced film. But yeah, I'd say I've always been more gravitated towards like the Grudge movies than the Ring. Mainly because I probably saw the Grudge first, I'd say. But yeah, Ju-on, definitely one that I like, and another one that I don't know if you've seen or seen either, but one that is probably, I'd say definitely the most like underrated film from this year. It's Mothman Prophecies.
I actually saw that one in recent time. That's another one that I just own on VHS, and I just picked up one time because it was just something horror to pick up, and I really didn't care for it too much, to be completely honest. I was a little bored by it. I thought the kind of ending portions were a little creepy, but I wasn't a big fan. Oddly enough, I remember when I was a kid, my aunt actually kind of raving about the movie and saying how creepy it was and how it was supposed to be like based on some true events or something. And I remember back then being really interested and wanting to check it out, but I just never did. I feel like maybe if I did see it when I was younger, because I could pay attention to stuff a lot easier back then, whether it was boring or fun or whatever it was. I had more of an attention span, so I feel like I might have appreciated it more if I saw it at that time. But I have seen it.
Yeah, I didn't see it at the time either, but like, yeah, I find the whole movie to be really creepy. Actually, like, we said on me and my brother's podcast, one of our last episodes, we talked about the My Bloody Valentine remake, and how we went to go visit where where the location where it was filmed at, and it's about an hour away from where we live in Kittanning, Pennsylvania, and that's also where some scenes from this movie were shot.
Oh.
Actually, like, there's this bridge that you also see in the My Bloody Valentine remake. That is the scene where the Mothman is chilling up at the top and makes a collapse and everything. So, yeah, I thought that was cool. But yeah, I really, really enjoy that film. I always found it to be pretty creepy and atmospheric. It's another one. I always find it like really stupid when like this movie like takes place during like Christmas time. And there's like Christmas lights up and stuff like that, but that doesn't like no Christmas feel whatsoever, so it's like completely pointless.
Yeah, movies like that are definitely weird where they have a holiday going on, but it's just kind of an afterthought.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I'd say that pretty much would be all the ones I'd say are my favorites from the year.
Alright, well, to get into, I guess, my favorites, first up, an obvious choice for me is definitely May.
I thought you hated it.
Oh, I was just edit that part out.
No.
But no, May. Yeah, this movie. I've actually only seen this one twice, and I recall the second time going to watch it, like I was really scared that it wasn't going to live up to how it was the first time I watched it, because sometimes your experiences just kind of become less second time around, especially with a movie like this, but I was completely wrong. I fell in love with it all over again, and I just think it's a very great film. I find the main character, she's just, Angela Bettis, she's just fantastic in the role. I mean, you really didn't see many movies like this during this time period either. There's a few movies which we'll talk about later that come out in recent times, but you don't really see these sort of, I guess you can call it sort of a character study movie with an awkward, weird person who really can't connect well with other people. And I think it's just very unique for the time based on other movies that were coming out. And yeah, I just love it. It makes you uncomfortable the entire movie, not necessarily for horror reasons, but for awkward reasons, and I just think it's brilliant. I could go on forever about that one, but another one, guess I have to mention The Ring. I actually haven't seen this movie probably in freaking, I don't even know how many years at this point, but I was kind of obsessed with it in middle school, and I like to draw in middle school. I like to draw horror movie covers and stuff like that, and I always liked drawing some more for some reason, and I was kind of a weird kid for doing that, but I probably haven't seen the movie, honestly, since that time period, but I feel like it would still hold up today. I mean, the video in the movie is so creepy. The whole atmosphere is just eerie, the entire film. You know, it's set in Washington, I believe, and it's raining all the time. It's always just very gray and blue and gloomy looking, and I just think it's a great film. Like I said, I'm not very versed in the Japanese films, which is something I would like to kind of explore, both that and the Grudge films from Japan, but I just haven't gotten to yet. But yeah, I think it's still a good film. It's one that I would like to rewatch soon.
Yeah, me and my brother were actually just talking about that the other day because he had recently rewatched it. Yeah, it's really, really bleak, really, really creepy. So this has never had that like a lot of replay value for me. Probably because of that. It's really serious movie and everything. It's very story based as well.
Yeah, that's kind of, I was actually going to bring that up. It's kind of weird because I'm not actually a huge fan of those depressing, bleak films, as you say, where it's all kind of grayed out like that. I get very kind of depressed while watching them, so I'm not a huge fan. And also, it seems like during this time period, maybe not necessarily this year, but just the early 2000s, it seems like a lot of these movies, especially ones dealing with the paranormal, had these big, long investigative scenes where they would have your main character kind of going to the library or something and going through old records and
they
books.
still do it today. It's fucking bye-bye, man. And shit like
True.
that.
Exactly. Yes, another reason why that movie
Jesus
is horrible.
Christ.
But I've never been a big fan of that, though, either. When I rewatch films from this time period, that's one of my big complaints is I just think it's so boring, and it really, as I've said before, kind of dates the movie as well, because nowadays you would just see someone on their phone Googling all this information. But, yeah, in this movie, though, it's an exception. I never really minded it, and I could rewatch it any time. But other movies from this year, honestly, I actually like the Carrie remake, the TV version of Carrie. I know you said that you've never seen it, but it's actually not too bad. Angela Bettis, oddly enough, plays in this as well, and she's playing an awkward girl once again in this film, and it came out the same year as May, but I think it kind of shows how brilliant she is as an actress because she's playing an awkward character, but it's a totally different feel. It's not the same. She's not playing the same character that is May, even though they seem like they would be kind of similar in character traits, and she really nails it. It's definitely not as good as the original, but I would almost venture to say I kind of like it a little more than the 2013 movie. I don't know. I don't really know how many people stand on this Carrie TV thing. I feel like a lot of people are kind of lukewarm on it. It is very long. It's like 2 hours and 12 minutes, it says here. So, but it kind of tries to follow the book a little more closely. But I never minded it. It was one that I kind of grew up watching as well. Guess I like Cabin Fever as well. You already kind of talked about that one. but 28 Days Later, I like that one. I'm not a huge infection person, though, so it's not one of my
Infection
favorites.
is a zombie film.
Oh my god.
That right there, that is like one of the number 1 and number 2 most annoying conversations and topics in horror.
It feels like it's
Infection
always
versus zombie.
28 Days Later is the movie that ruined that too. Like
Yeah.
that's like the first movie that argument came up with, and
Who
that's
gives a
still
fuck? Like, it's practically the same thing.
yeah. I don't even. Either way, I don't care because I don't like zombie or infection films
Yeah.
equally. So it's like whatever. But one more notable film that I'll just mention, so I can have like a solid 5 here, is Dark Water. I literally only just watched that one a few weeks ago for the first time, and I thought it was extremely creepy, extremely effective. Another kind of bleak film. It's set mainly in this apartment building, and just it's really creepy. The story kind of gets to me, and there's sort of this theory that there's like this real life crime that happened. I believe it was in California with this girl who I think she was even Asian, and she was at a hotel, and the last clipping of her you can find on YouTube in this elevator, and a lot of people say it's very similar to this movie, so that kind of makes this movie even creepier. But yeah, it's a good one. I definitely recommend it. Like I said, it's the Japanese version. I know there's an American one as well.
I actually have the American remake. I haven't watched it yet.
I've seen them both, but the American one I actually haven't seen since I was a kid, so I don't really remember it.
I
But
think it has Jennifer Connelly in it.
it does, yeah.
That's
I
probably
only
the reason I bought it.
Of course.
But yeah, I've seen that video before, so.
Oh my god, it creeps me out, man.
Yeah, but yeah, I'll definitely have to check that one out someday. I definitely need to get more in tuned or up to date with like Asian horror films. So yeah, other notable films that we have not mentioned yet. Another kind of Asian, not kind of Asian, it's kind of Asian, you know. Another Asian film, The Eye. This is one of the more popular ones that come out in the early 2000s. Have you seen this one?
Honestly, I feel like I might have, but if I did, I don't remember it at all. Some of these movies I get kind of confused in my head because they all seem like I probably have seen it when I was young, but I just don't remember.
Yeah, it's a slow burn film. It's really, really good though. Like it's just super, super creepy. You've probably seen at least a scene from this movie. It has like it takes place in like an elevator. Pretty much anybody who ever has like on YouTube is like a best horror scenes ever. Like this one's always seems to be brought up. But yeah, it's really, really creepy film. Just slow burn. Kind of why I don't have it listed as like some of my favorites, I'd say. But yeah, we got the first movie in the Resident Evil franchise. Pretty much all these movies. There are some fans of this one. Pretty much all of them are met with negative, reactions. I'm a huge, huge fan of the video game franchise. My favorite gaming franchise. I've, pretty much played almost all the games. The fourth one's my favorite game ever. But, I actually think the first one's alright. Like, I have, the first, 3 on DVD, in this trilogy thing. I actually think, those are, watchable. It's just kind of one of those franchises that gets, worse and worse as the movie goes on. I haven't seen all the movies, but the first one, actually not too bad, I don't think.
Yeah, actually, I've seen the first... I think I've also seen the first 3, and that's it. I actually own, Resident Evil Extinction, I think it might be.
I don't even know which one that is.
Yeah, I don't. That's why I kind of hesitated there because I don't even know what I'm talking about. But I got it. It was one of the when I used to get Horror Pack. I got that, and it's just been on my watch stack forever because I haven't seen all the other ones. I don't really plan to, and I know I'm not gonna really feel like watching it. But I remember I actually kind of did like the first movie as well as the second one, and the third one I barely remember, but I thought it was all right. So
yeah.
It's definitely not. They're not horrible. I'm not, for being someone who's not into those movies at all, I find them to be watchable, at least those ones.
Yeah, not bad. Um, what else do we have here? Eight-Legged Freaks, a horror comedy with David Arquette and giant spiders. Have you seen that?
No, I always thought the title and the cover were stupid, so I just never watched it.
It's a stupid movie, that's for sure. It's alright. It's got some laughs in it. My brother loves this movie, but I don't know. It's not the funniest thing in the world. It's alright though, you know.
Mm-hmm.
It's David Arquette. He's you gotta at least watch it for him. He's a funny dude. You got Red Dragon, the third. Is there 3 in the Hannibal Lecter series? Or is it Manhunter?
Well,
Count.
it's a little confusing because there's Manhunter. That was the first movie, I believe,
Okay,
and then
so that does count.
it's like apparently Red Dragon's kind of like a remake of Manhunter because they're both like prequels to the Silence of the Lamb
I'm
events.
confused already.
Yeah, well, Manhunt, like, I picked, because I actually, once again, I have VHS copy. I have a VHS copy of Red Dragon. I have not watched it yet, because it's a long movie, and I just don't, I feel like I'm not going to care for it. But I picked up that one time, Manhunter, and Silence of the Lambs, because I just found all 3 of them at Goodwill, and I thought, why not just buy the Silence of the Lambs movies and complete them all? But yeah, you have Manhunter, then I believe it's Silence of the Lambs, then I believe Red Dragon, then Hannibal, and then Hannibal Rising, I think. So there's like 5 movies there.
Oh, yeah, I know Hannibal. I thought Hannibal was the one that came after Silence of the Lambs.
It might be. It might, because Red Dragon, I think, is, like I said, the remake.
I'm really not well versed in this franchise, whatever you call it, at all.
I didn't even know. It took, like, my whole life I thought Silence of the Lambs was just a single movie until I was a teenager, so.
I had seen Hannibal, which I think Hannibal's actually alright. It's pretty cool, I think. But, Red Dragon, it's forgettable. I don't remember really anything
After all
about
that, it's like,
I seriously,
kinda sucks.
it's whatever. There's this movie I've actually seen, it's one of those movies I watched a couple years ago, and I've heard a few people post about this movie in the past and say that really liked it. Just don't quite understand why. It's called Darkness. It was on this 8-pack of horror films I got one time, and it's this really weird movie. It's this supernatural, people are seeing copies of each other, something like that.
Yeah,
I've actually seen it twice, but I didn't care for it either time.
I actually have seen it as well, but it's once again one of those ones that I saw right around probably when it came out and then never saw again. I think I used to own it on DVD, but I don't have that now in my collection. I don't know what happened. I don't know who has that DVD now, but yeah, I never watched it again since, and I remember as a kid not really liking it too much. But I do recall the basic concept, especially now that you kind of bring it up with where they're kind of seeing copies of themselves.
Alright, next up we have Queen of the...
Trash.
Ugh, Queen of the Damned. Shit. Yeah, boring. Really boring.
I could not get through this one. It's so
people do like this movie, and I watched it once. I'm like, nope, never again.
Yeah, I started out paying attention to it, and then halfway through, I think I mentally fell asleep. So, I was still awake, but I just was staring at the screen, not really thinking about the movie, kind of just thinking oh, what am I gonna have for dinner tonight?
Yeah, very boring, uninteresting movie. Oh man. Hellraiser Hellseeker, the Hellraiser sequel.
Yep, can't tell you which one that is, what happens in it.
I think it's the one that comes after
it.
Inferno. I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
And I remember it being basically exactly like Inferno, practically. But I think this one's okay. I think.
I tortured myself with these movies and watched them all in marathon type form over the course of a week. Yep. So I never want to watch them again. Nope. I thought they were all terrible. I don't remember which one's which. So moving along.
I don't think they're really terrible. I actually was okay, these are fine, okay. up until I got to like Deader or something, I was like, all right, I'm not going any further. Fuck this. This is terrible. But yeah, they're all basically the same movie. It's just,
Yeah.
it was bad. We did say shitty sequels. Cube 2, Hypercube.
Never seen it yet.
Yeah, the first one, kind of pretty much a hidden gem from the 90s. Really cool film.
Mhm.
This movie, pretty much everybody will agree, it is a very, very large step down from the first one. I think this and Cube Zero, which I've actually heard Cube Zero is alright, are on Netflix. But don't watch it though. I'm just telling you
Yeah.
they're out there.
JP actually gave me Cube Zero as one of my Christmas gifts, and I still haven't watched it yet, but I just don't feel like watching Cube 2, so it's like, but I am going to watch Cube Zero because I do hear it's pretty good.
Yeah, so then we got another one, American Psycho 2. You seen that?
I never seen that one.
Again, very large step down from the first one. You know, how kind of smart and witty the first one is, this is none of that. Just very dumbed down, very disappointing, not a very good movie at all. And we saved the worst for last, Halloween Resurrection.
Yes.
My god, I mean, we don't need to talk about that anymore. Let's move on to the next fucking year. That's all we need. That's all we need to say. So yeah, that's it for 2002, and we'll kind of give our overall thoughts on the years like after we're done with both of them. So, moving on to 2012 now. One that actually I don't know if you even knew came out in this year, or if you've even seen it. But this is actually one I caught wind of because of the 22 shots, and they just blew this movie. And I absolutely love this movie. One of my favorites from this subgenre is The Battery.
No, I actually haven't seen that one yet. I know, like you said, 22 shots, they really do kind of shove this down your throat, and JP has talked about it multiple times, and I do want to see it, but I kind of always forget about it, honestly.
Yeah, I know, like, at FYE, like, when they're, like, on clearance, like, they always had, like, the Scream Factory DVD for, like, $4. So, I have this, like, screener-type Blu-ray for it, but the Blu-ray looks really good, so there's just no special features or anything, which I don't give a shit, but yeah, this movie was made for $6,000. It just blows my mind because it's such a just professional, just beautiful looking movie. Like, you would watch this movie and just be like, wow, like, you would never believe it was that. I think I've heard, like, he got the budget for this movie by asking 10 friends for $600, and that's how he got the budget.
Good friends.
Yeah, so, I will say maybe the acting kind of isn't the best, especially like kind of like one of the side characters you meet later on the film. His acting is pretty bad, but the effects, the camera work is just absolutely beautiful, and it is such a great story. It is a zombie film, but it's much less of a zombie film. It's about how it's a character study of these two characters basically, and it is just absolutely fantastic. I mean, I absolutely love the movie. One of my top 5 zombie films for sure, absolutely. If not like top 3, I absolutely love it. After that, I would say probably, looking down, probably Excision would come after that, which is one that you basically showed me because I had never even heard of this movie before we did it on the Whisbro Bros about a year ago at this time. But yeah, really, really cool movie. Another one of those awkward chick type movies. But yeah, absolutely loved that movie as well. One that I remember have pretty fond memories. I don't think I saw this in theaters. Actually, I think I saw Paranormal Activity 4 instead of this in theaters, which, yeah, I like Paranormal Activity, but this movie's a lot better. But Sinister. just an absolutely just creepy ass movie. I mean, just some of the most disturbing imagery in any like mainstream, horror flick. I think just really really creepy film, really creepy score as well. Um, Next one I would say is probably the most underrated horror film to be released in theaters from this decade. I haven't seen, like, nobody ever talks about this film. I saw this in theaters, and I've always just loved this movie. It's The Possession. It's just such a creepy ass movie. Has a really good score. Has like of course, starring Jeffrey Dean Morgan. It's a really really cool story. I mean, it's has to do with like this Dybbuk box and stuff like that. It's just really really creepy. Super super underrated. Nobody ever talks about that. Then I guess you would have the Maniac remake. One of the best remakes ever. Fine example of how to do a remake. Take what you have in the original one, make it different, do your own thing with it. Love the style, and this has a really awesome score. So this is gonna sound pretty bad when I say this. Not that I care, but this year has my favorite shark movie ever. Yes.
Oh, no.
I just don't really care for shark movies overall. Like, I like Jaws. I don't love it. I really, really enjoy this film though. That is bait. Yeah, it's really, really fun. It's actually, like, the effects look really, really good. Besides, like, maybe, like, 2 parts in the movie. It's basically these people stuck in, I think it's, like, a parking lot / like, supermarket, and, like, this tsunami hits, and, like, they're trapped in there, or sharks swimming around. Really, really cool film. Has the main chick from You're Next in it. Like, the final girl, I guess you'd call her. But yeah, really, really fun film, I think. Grave Encounters 2. One I remember seeing on Netflix, and I've always really, really liked that one. Not as good as the first one, but pretty good sequel. Also, the original VHS. Not as good as the second one, but still really, really cool film. Another one I saw on Netflix at this time. And I think you already talked about this maybe a little bit, Chernobyl Diaries.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, another kind of really underrated film. I think I saw this one in theaters as well. But, yeah, of course, really, really cool setting, of course, in Chernobyl, and really cool premise, but pretty well executed movie, really cool stuff. And the last one I will talk about is Silent Night. The remake, I guess, whatever you want to call it. But Silent Night. Really, really big fan of this one. Again, I don't like it as much as the original one, but I think me and my brother first saw this, and we're expecting something like really cheesy and shitty, and we're really pleasantly surprised. Really, really cool film, and yeah, love Malcolm McDowell in it. So, yeah, I'd say those are my favorites of the year.
Yeah. Silent Night, that's one I really want to check out. I've actually never seen that
Oh.
film, so that's one that I'll try to maybe pick up for this Christmas time. But anyway, yeah, for me, VHS, that's definitely one that blew me away with as far as creepiness goes. I've said before, it's hard to really creep me out nowadays with how much horror movies I've seen at this point, but I remember at the time when I watched this one, which was probably 2 years ago or something like that, I also watched it on Netflix, and actually, no, I think JP actually lent me this one because he wanted me to check it out, and I just thought it was so creepy, especially that first shorts. Upon rewatch, I feel like it kind of went down for me. It didn't really strike me as scary because I knew everything that was going to happen, but I think it's a very, very solid anthology film. I actually prefer this over the second one. I know I'm in the minority there, but another one, American Mary. I've only seen this movie once, but it's a great sort of revenge film slash just girl kind of has something happen to her, and then she just kind of snaps and starts doing her own thing. And it was a fantastic movie. Definitely recommend that to people who like seeing sort of crazy slash sort of strong, I guess you could say, female leads. Excision, of course, that is one that I always recommend to people. I just think it's very interesting throughout. Another great awkward girl movie where you're kind of following this character and you just want to know what she's gonna do next because she's so weird, and everything she kind of does and says is very interesting, and definitely one that I always tell people to check out. Let's see, another one, Stitches. That's
I forgot about. I didn't even realize that came out this year.
Yeah, it's like all the way at the bottom of the list here, but yeah, Stitches. This is a fantastic horror comedy. It's one of those horror comedies that just really works for me. I'm very picky with my horror comedies, and this one definitely makes me laugh a few times. It's just a fun movie to put on at any time. Definitely recommend that if you just kind of want a feel-good type of film. Feel good. It's not really, I mean, it's like a killer clown movie, but you know, a good horror comedy.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty good. Like, I didn't like absolutely love it, but I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah, but another one. I mean, Maniac. That remake. It's another one that I've only seen one time. It's one I've been wanting to revisit because I thought it was just fantastic, and I could actually venture to say that I think I enjoyed it a little bit more than the original film. That movie is fantastic as well, but I just like the kind of way this one's set up a little more. It almost reminds me of movies such as Excision or May, where it's more character study-ish, and you're kind of seeing the point of view of, instead of an awkward girl, though, it's kind of an awkward, weird dude, and he's doing this, you know, bad stuff. So, really enjoyed that one. And, last one I kind of mentioned here is actually The Woman in Black. I know this one, a lot of people kind of find it to be a little bit boring and slow burnish, and I would honestly agree with that. I used to think it was a little boring as well with the beginning portions, but I think it's very creepy in atmosphere, and when you actually see the creepy moments go down, I think they're very effective, and I really enjoyed it. I would say avoid the sequel because I kind of thought that was crap, but that's just kind of me. So that's kind of my main picks, I would say, for this year.
Yeah, I like The Women in Black. I do think there's some really creepy atmospheric parts to it, but yeah, it's definitely a bit too slow moving for me to say I love it. There's just a couple kind of more slower, too slow parts for me. Yeah, I do like American Mary too. I'm not like super huge on it. I think the Siska sisters direct that. I'm honestly not like super huge on them as a whole. Like, I know like everybody like loves them because they're gothic and people think they're hot and whatever, but yeah.
I honestly think they're creepy.
I do too.
Like, as people, I don't think they're hot. Like, obviously I'm not like attracted to women, but just like as shut up. As horror, I don't know. They just have like this creepy vibe to them, and I would agree kind of. I'm not a huge fan of just them. I saw Dead Hooker in the Trunk, and that one is a micro budget film that it was truly a do-it-yourself movie, and everyone always gives them credit for it. But I was not into that movie really at all. I don't care what budget it was on. I was just like, oh, okay, like I get it. You can appreciate it because they went out and made a movie themselves, but at the same time, I just didn't find it to be that entertaining. But anyway.
Yeah, shitty movie's a shitty movie. You know,
Yeah.
Whether the budget is whatever. But yeah, I'm just not into their work too much at all. I'm just not into them that much, honestly. But it's a pretty good movie. Some ones that we did not mention yet. Rob Zombie's Lords of Salem. This is one that back in the day, a couple years ago, I absolutely hated this film. I absolutely hated Rob Zombie, and kind of after I watched House of Thousand Corpses and Devil's Rejects, I started to say, hey, this Rob Zombie guy, he's not too bad. Um, and then I grew appreciation for. I did a complete 180 on his first Halloween film. I absolutely love that film now. Used to hate it, but yeah, I just kind of grew appreciation for his style, and yeah, I like this movie now. I still don't think it's great. The end of this movie just completely goes completely off the wall, just really just wacky, and I never really cared for it, but it's a pretty creepy movie.
Yeah, I've only seen it once. I actually have. It was actually one of the first Blu-rays I picked up when I got a Blu-ray player. I picked up Lords of Salem. I found the steelbook at a CD warehouse out kind of 45 minutes from where I live or so, but it's kind of like a used DVD Blu-ray place, and I picked that up as well as the producer's cut of Halloween 6, oddly enough, and I've only seen it once. I appreciated how it was kind of a big love letter to movies like Rosemary's Baby, sort of The Shining, and I know there's one other movie that people like to compare it to, so I kind of like the vibe to it. It was definitely a slower film. It's one that I would like to definitely go back to because I thought it was slow but kind of interesting.
Yeah, it's pretty creepy, and I've actually heard people say this is one of their favorite vampire films. It is called Byzantium. I think my brother told me about this one, and I picked it up when we were at a convention. It was I think it's Dark Sky Films that released this. I like this movie. It's just, it's really slow moving, and yeah, I just wasn't fully into it. It was pretty cool though for what it was.
Yeah, I've actually never seen that one.
Yeah, I'd recommend. I'd recommend it. It's really, really a well-made movie. I'm just kind of getting sick of seeing vampires portrayed in this, they're kind of these elegant creature type things. I want to see them portrayed as these vicious type monsters almost, and it's kind of gets away from that a little bit. But The Pact is another one from this year. Pretty cool film. I know this movie has a sequel, which sucks. But yeah, it's a pretty cool film. I think I probably rented this movie or something from Redbox. I think that's how I remember watching it.
Yeah, I've never seen that one either, actually.
Yeah, I'd say check this one out. It's I think it has to do with this person thinks their house is haunted, and then it kind of has a twist at the end, but it's really cool. The Collection, the sequel to The Collector, The Collector is actually a really, really cool movie. One of the more underrated films from the 2010s, I think so. But this sequel, I've seen it twice. I think it's alright. It's a bit more action-y. The first one's kind of a reverse home invasion type deal, almost kind of like cat and mouse me. This one's more action-y almost, and I don't know. It's alright though. I know some people really really like it, but I don't know.
Once again, I have not seen that one. There's a lot of. This is really opening my eyes. There's a lot of movies from this year that are pretty good that I still have not seen. Probably because, like I said, I wasn't as into horror in that time period, and I had no reason to go back to it. So.
Well, you did see this movie because I know you mentioned it earlier, but The House at the End of the Street.
Never heard of it.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
With Jennifer Lawrence, of course. I think she took this role right. She did this, I think, before The Hunger Games came out. And then The Hunger Games came out, and then this came out afterwards. So it's kind of I'd always be confused as to she just did The Hunger Games. Why is she doing The House at the End of the Street? But yeah, I think that's how it went. So yeah, one of her. What's up?
I was just gonna say, do you like this movie?
It's alright. Again, it is what it is. It's there's nothing super special about it. It does have Max Terriot as well from Bates Motel and My Solo Take, but I'm gonna pretend I didn't mention that. 'Cause I don't want
The
my brother-
Pacifier.
I never heard of that, so.
I've seen that movie so many times. But yeah, I'm not a huge fan of the film. That's why I asked. Like, I think it's kind of just the.
Yeah, there's nothing special about it. I know. I haven't watched it, and it's not one I ever have the urge to watch. It's what my brother calls a cozy film.
God,
He
I
uses
hate
that
him
term
with that.
so fucking much. He's like, "Oh, it's just a cozy film." Like, what the fuck does that mean? Like, just
I know
like,
he's like Slender Man. I would say that's like bottom tier cozy film.
Like, okay, you know, I think that's just bottom tier. That's what
Period.
I think. Yeah. Another one he says is just a cozy film. The Apparition. It is.
Oh my
It's it's like the definition of of a mediocre horror film, I think. So I saw this one in theaters, that I remember, so that's why I bring it up. But
I can't
yeah.
believe it was in theaters.
Yeah, I saw this. I remember I saw this, and I saw The Possession like right after this came out. So
Yeah,
it's as generic as it gets, I think.
I got this one in horror pack, oddly enough, as well, and it's probably the most generic. Like, people talk about, oh, all these ghostly movies are so generic. This is the definition. I mean, there's really nothing scary really going on in this movie. It's PG-13. It's your basic story. I hated it.
I actually think it has a decent premise to it.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know. It's just everything about it is just it's really just middle of the road. Nothing. You know, I wouldn't say I hate it, but it's okay. You know, it is completely average. That's all That's all I'll say about it. And I know you said you brought this one up too, and I mentioned it a little bit. But Paranormal Activity 4.
Yeah.
You know, okay, so I am a big fan of this franchise. You know, I love 1, 2, and 3, and I really like the marked ones. You know, I've always been a defender of this franchise. When I watched this movie in theaters, I chose to watch this over Sinister, like I said, which is a mistake. But I went with like a bunch of my friends and stuff like that, and we just had a lot of fun seeing it in theaters. So like, I always have like a little soft spot for this movie. But like when I watch it nowadays, I kind of realize like, man, this really isn't the best thing in the world. Like, there's a lot of false scares. You know, it's just not nearly as effective as the first 3 films. But I just have this soft spot for it. I think I still watch it and still am able to enjoy it.
Yeah, the thing with Paranormal Activity movies is I remember seeing the first one and thinking it was trash, and then we went back and saw the second one. I said the same thing. Then we kept seeing them in theaters. It just became like the cool thing to go do, I guess, because, you know, it was like a franchise coming out during our time period, whether you enjoyed it or not. And Part 4, I think I remember liking. They all kind of run together in my head, but I think I did actually enjoy this one more than most of them. But once again, I don't even own any of these movies, so I can't even really give an honest opinion or say, is this the one where the girl's like in the garage and the car starts?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's what I thought. So I think I did actually like this one, but it's really hard for me to say with all these movies because they're all kind of the same movie to me.
Yeah, I think 1, 2, and, well, the other 2, Tokyo Nights, which is really weird. There are 2 Paranormal Activity 2s, but whatever. Both of those are really good, and the third one's really, really, really good, and then Marked Ones is really good as well. But yeah, 4's not the greatest thing in the world, I don't think. And last and least for me, probably the most underwhelming, disappointing movie to come out this year, because like the trailers came out for this movie and I was like so hyped to see it. Another found footage movie, The Devil Inside. Yeah, this movie is garbage. Really, really bad stuff. Yeah, I remember renting this with one of my friends, and I was just like, wow, like We were like so hyped before the movie, and just like, man, that really sucked. Like, pretty much on every level.
I actually don't think I've seen this one either. I think this is another one that I have like one friend who I'm still friends with, and she's not like a horror fan. She's as mainstream as it gets. But when a movie comes out in theaters, she always says we should go see like this movie. I remember when Devil's Due came out, she was all like, "Oh, this movie looks so scary," and in my head, I'm thinking like it's probably gonna suck. Even back then, when I wasn't really into all types of horror, but this was definitely one of them. And a lot of times we would say we're gonna go see something and not see it, and I believe this is one of them. And I remember hearing people saying it was awful, so it's definitely not on my radar anytime soon.
Yeah, and it shouldn't be. It's bad. Devil's Due is another cozy film. If you didn't know. Devil's Due is another like really generic movie for me. Just
Yeah.
really another one I was really hyped to see. Of course, because it's found footage, and I really liked found footage. But yeah, just really pretty generic stuff. But yeah, do you have any other ones that you want to talk about that I didn't?
Would You Rather is a pretty good one.
I didn't. Yeah, I have seen that one. I didn't list it down, but yeah, that is a pretty good movie.
Yeah, that's a good one. Let's see. Tall Man, that one's trash. It's one of those movies that's not really even a horror movie. I own it. I don't really remember it that much. Anything else? Let's see. Grabbers, that one.
Oh,
I know
yeah.
Derek really likes that one. I'm not huge on the monster movies or whatever you want to call this movie, but it's alright. I can see how people enjoy it.
That's the one we did for when we did Horror Mafia, wasn't it? One with like
Oh yeah, that was like our
the drunk. Yeah, they like drank.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I forgot about that. I forgot
thought it was fun.
I forgot I completely reviewed that movie on our podcast once. Yeah, but I think it's a fun movie. I'm just not as into it as the next guy is. But other than that, that's honestly pretty much it. A lot of these movies I find that I haven't actually seen, so.
Yeah, which I know when I googled it had Prometheus listed as horror, but I don't consider that horror.
I don't like that movie. ABC's of Death, I don't like that one either that much. I just rewatched that.
I could have listed that for the trash section too. I don't like that at all. But yeah, I really love Prometheus actually. It's probably my favorite in that franchise.
I just don't like those movies in general that much, so it's like, it's alright. Like, it's a good film, you know? I'm not gonna say it's trash, it's just, I'm not a fan. I would probably never rewatch it.
I just realized, I didn't even ask you to name off any that I missed from 2002, because you mentioned High and Resurrection, and I just got horrified and moved
I know,
on.
you were just like, that's it, let's move on. Yeah, 2002, there was, kind of looking at the list here. There was one specifically I was going to mention, that was They. Have you ever seen They?
I have it, but I haven't watched it.
That's another one, yet again, that I saw as a kid. Don't remember a whole lot of. Remember thinking, like, that's a movie I would almost compare to Darkness. A lot of movies around that time seemed very similar to each other, and that one's just okay.
Yeah, I got that because it was at a flea market for $1, and it had Wes Craven's name on it, so I was like, alright.
Yeah, I think he produced it.
Yeah, he produced it.
Yeah, but honestly, I think we pretty much hit all the good ones from 2002. So.
All right, so I guess we can kind of wrap this up. So, like, what are your kind of like overall general opinions on each of these years? Like, you think one's like top heavy, or do you think one has like isn't as top heavy but has more like depth to it, like, is more good films? Like, I don't know, what do you think?
Honestly, I was kind of thinking the whole time, it's kind of hard for me to say, because I feel like 2002 has a lot of movies that I have a lot of nostalgia for, and I feel like I would go back to those movies more probably than I would with 2012, and maybe that's just the idea of recency. I feel like I don't really run back to movies from this decade quite yet, as I would with ones that remind me of my childhood a little bit. But I don't know. At the same time, though, 2002 actually had some really, really good movies. I mean, 28 Days Later, The Ring, May, Cabin Fever, those are all actually really good. But as you kind of go down the list, you get to some forgettable ones. With 2012, let me pull up where'd it go? Here it is. 2012 is a weird one for me because, as I mentioned, I wasn't too into horror at this time in my life, and while a lot of these movies I have seen at this point and I do like, I almost feel like I said, I wouldn't really run back to a lot of these, but I kind of feel it probably has some more solid ones than 2002 does in general. When it comes to top heavy, I almost feel like 2002 kind of wins in that category. But it's just really hard to say because that was so many years ago. But I would probably give it to 2002 for top heaviness based on my viewings of these movies.
Yeah, I think these are both really solid years, which is why I picked them against each other. I think they're really comparable just by like quality. I do, however, feel that 2002 is more top heavy, as in like they had like the top of, like you kind of said, the top of the list. Like there's like Cabin Fever, May, Dog Soldiers, and then like you kind of once you get down to like the other like films, like you got Eight-Legged Freaks and Resident Evil and fucking Red Dragon, kind of movies like that. They're just kind of really just like forgettable or just lesser quality. Where I feel as of 2012, I think just has way more depth to it. I think there's more solid films. As you're looking at 2012, I think it's a really, really strong year, honestly. Although I would say, honestly, my favorite movie from like both these years is probably The Battery, just by looking at this. But yeah, I probably do enjoy the top movies overall from 2012 more than the top movies from 2002. I just think the 2002 is just it's just top heavy as in like the overall quality of it, like there isn't as much depth to the movies.
Yeah, I'm kind of the opposite. I feel like the 2002 movies are ones, like I said, I would rewatch more often, even today, than I would with 2012. Like, looking at 2012, I almost feel like Sinister is probably the most memorable movie, and it's the one that's still more relevant than any of these today, and that's kind of what I would say when it comes to top heavy, because The Possession I have seen, you recommended that one to me. I thought that was really good, but like you said, no one talks about it. Woman in Black, a lot of people find it to be a little bit boring, even though it got kind of hype at the time, but now no one really talks about it. Chernobyl Diaries is just kind of a fun movie. There's nothing really much to say about that one. Paranormal Activity 4 is kind of average, so I almost feel like Sinister is one that you still see a lot of people talking about and saying was a really scary movie, but other than that, everything else is really arguably solid movies and probably better in quality than 2002, but just not as memorable. But yeah, looking at both years, when it comes to like my favorite movies, I almost feel like they kind of even out a little bit, where I can go through both lists and name off 10 that I really enjoy. I do feel like 2012, if I have to pick one, 2012 would probably get the lead, though, in that category, because, I mean, Excision, American Mary, Maniac, those are ones that I really love. So, and, yeah, the other, like 2002, I think they're all good, but, they're more fun, not as, I don't know, they're more fun ones that I would go back to, and maybe not as memorable with emotions or anything.
Yeah. Okay, so, I guess it is time to choose a winner. I guess I'll go first. Yeah, like I said, I think it's, this is a pretty close one. For me, it's just, once I go down the list from 2002, we start getting the movies like Queen of the Damned and Hellseeker and Cube 2 and Resurrection and stuff like that, and I feel like there's a lot more films for me in 2012. And that's what it really comes to. Plus, it does have my favorite movie from these 2 years. So yeah, overall, I just feel like 2012 is a overall more solid year. I think there's just a lot more solid films compared to 2002. So yeah, I'm going with 2012.
All right. Yeah, this is definitely a hard, like, the whole time we've been recording here, I've been just trying to think of which one I really do enjoy more. And while I mean, 2002 honestly probably has some of my favorite films with May and The Ring. Those are two that I would always consider to be in my top 20 or something like that. But 2012 also has some ones that I may consider for a list. Like I said, recency is kind of one of those things I always struggle with. I'm like, well, if it's a newer movie and I've only seen it once, can I really put it on a top favorite list? But I think it does come down to, as you scroll down the list, there's a lot of better films in 2012. And as I've said, there's a lot that I have not seen. And just kind of scrolling through, there's a lot that I would like to see and check out, especially now after kind of talking about them and hearing you talk about them. So, and then with 2002, even movies such as Darkness and They that I have seen before, I would never really want to rewatch those ones. So I would probably also give it to 2012 for the win here.
Okay, so we got our first unanimous win. I think we've differed against each other the past 2 times, so
Yeah.
yeah, we are in agreement with 2012. So yeah, I think that was really interesting to do. I think it was quite a bit of fun was had.
Yes.
Yes.
All the fun.
Yeah. But yeah, let us know what you guys thought about this little experiment episode, kind of. If you guys liked it, would you like to see us do more of these? And yeah, what is your favorite year between these two, and what is your favorite movie between these two? So yeah, definitely want to hear what you guys think down when our episode is released. So yeah, definitely check us out on our group page. That is M.V.M Horror Podcast on Facebook. Check out Carly's other podcast, Netflix and Chill. I said it right this time.
Yeah.
And the Woodsboro Bros, the better of the PA Horror Podcast.
Huh. I don't know about that, but
yeah, and check out Carly on her YouTube channel as well. So yeah, let us know what you thought. Next episode, we do know what we're doing. We decided to go with some anthologies, but not just any anthologies, some hood-themed anthologies, specifically.
yeah. We're theming it out, guys.
Yeah.
Like extra theme.
Double-themed. So,
Yeah.
yes, I guess we can just say what movies they are now. But yeah, we are doing Tales from the Hood and Hood of Horror. So, yeah, be looking out for that with episode 4. So, thank you guys for listening, and we'll catch you guys next time. Peace.
Peace.